Welcome to Mysterious Goings On. We're going to get right to the show after these messages. You know, one of my favorite times of year is the end of the year. It's about endings we wish to speak. Well, not exactly. But, you know, I love to get with folks who have a variety of interests and are paying attention and kind of just do a kind of a potpourri towards the end of the year. I think it's kind of fun to do that. And so our guest today is not necessarily pushing a book and not necessarily got an agenda other than to have a great conversation. And I hope I can hold up my end, because today I'm very excited to welcome to Mysterious Goings On, Emma Alvarez Gibson. She is a writer, editor, creative strategist, and part-time Cassandra. I was going to tell her I don't believe that. Then again, if she's a Cassandra, she's used to being told that people don't believe her. Her multicultural, multilingual, and pathologically curious approach to life informs all of her work. She's the director of strategy and creative with the Kansas City-based Brain Zooming, I've heard of them, and co-founder and CMO of the bi-coastal agency Dossier. Her latest project is A Brief Compendium of Cool. Born and raised in the suburbs of Los Angeles, Emma lives there still with her husband, son, and two troublesome dogs. Emma, welcome to this troublesome show of mine, Mysterious Goings On.
I'm so glad to be here, Alex. Thanks for having me.
Boy, we go way back, but we don't really, let's see, have we ever met in person?
No, we never have.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
We're gonna have to fix that. I'm gonna come see you, I guess, because I guess you're not coming here anytime soon.
You know, I'm not sure when I'll be going there. I assume that now that we're doing things like getting on airplanes again, I will probably be out to see a client in your area, probably by midsummer would be my guess.
Okay, I will just say this. I know how crazy it gets when you're traveling. If it just won't work, it won't work. But if you're here and you have a few minutes, let's get together, have a cocktail, cup of coffee, whatever. We'll even bring your boss along if you want. It's up to you.
You know, he doesn't really like to do anything fun, so.
Oh man, you know, before we get into some various potpourri type topics, tell me a little more about Dossier, because this is a dimension of you I don't know much about. I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, sure. So Dossier focuses on creative work, meaning everything related to branding, whether it's a website, a logo, a brand language, content, all of the above. We handle a lot of different aspects of branding and brand guidance. And we work with a sort of extraordinarily large variety of folks. We've worked with a very well-known magician, professional magician. We've worked with a now journalist who in his previous life pulled off one of the bigger bank heists known to modern history.
Wow.
Both my partner Katie Boyer and I, we both work full-time jobs. So Dossier is at the moment something we do when time allows, a little bit of extra, you know, intensely creative work that we do together. And we work really well together. We joke that we share a brain. So a lot of times it comes together a lot more quickly and easily than it should. And it's just kind of a magical thing, which is why our tagline is Augurium obsonatus, which is Latin for enchanted marketing.
I was going to say Gesundheit, but you explained it. Thank you. Well, it's cool, and it's a great website. And if you don't mind, I'll put a link in the show notes. People can check it out for themselves. I think that's cool. One thing I think you and I have in common is that we're both very much into concepts of messaging and of looking for ways to try to present people, places, things, brands, companies in the minds of people in different ways. And so I'm fascinated by this kind of work, and I'm delighted to speak with you because I know that I will always learn something. Now, this other thing I want to know really quickly, though, before we really just start jumping into some potpourri talk, this brief compendium of cool. Now, what's this all about?
It's a project that started, well, I will, I'll say this, as in its current iteration, it's a product of COVID. It started life as a book proposal. And I'd finally finished a draft and had started garnering some interest potentially from agents, and then everything shut down, and nobody wanted to buy any books from somebody nobody's ever heard of. So given that a lot of people were very kind to send me, to write up essays for me on the topic and to provide interviews, I didn't want to just let that stuff sit on a shelf.
Right.
So I created a website for what's there now. I do hope eventually to still turn it into a book. And the idea comes from two things. One, if you look at the about page, it tells a little bit of a story about the first time that I remember encountering something that I would later describe as cool. I was mesmerized. I was not quite 3 years old. And because of that experience, I think I've always been intrigued by what it is that makes something cool, what it is that has that magnetic pull that is recognized by a lot of different people in a lot of different places. It's cool as opposed to popular. It's cool as opposed to hip, because I don't care about that shit. And it's as much an exploration as it is a who's who and what's what. So I continue to build on the portfolio of what's in there, and I do hope to eventually turn it into a book.
Sounds like a great idea, and your day will come. I know with that. I think the whole world's getting back up off its knees and off its back, off its heels, off of things. It's getting off of things. It's getting off of different body parts, as we say here. But no, I my first book proposal that started to get some interest, 2008. Bottom drops out of the economy. Everybody's like, forget it. No, never could get it back. But the point being, you will, because you're cool. And, the thing is, when you say cool, though, I'm old enough to think of Fonzie, and so really quick though, make the case for Fonzie being cool or not cool. Then
Fonzie is cool because he had his own sort of code of honor, code of ethics, and stuck to it. And even when everybody else thought he was crazy, he continued to be true to himself. I'm finding that the common thread through all of these things that I think are cool, because anything that's on the website that I'm saying, hey, this is something cool, I personally vetted it, because I make the rules there. So that's different from conversations I've had with people about what they think are cool. But anything on the website that I'm saying is cool tends to contain that thread of having a code of honor and staying true to oneself. Though,
the ding I would give Fonzie, besides his fashion sense, was also that he had a hard time admitting when he was I can't do it, because Fonzie could never say he was wrong. Do you remember?
Yes, that's a huge problem. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah, you can't just hit the jukebox when you're wrong and make it go. But so speaking of cool, how about something that's been a phenomenon this year in particular? That's kind of, it's cool in my opinion, but it's not about a cool guy unless you think about a personal code, which you just opened my eyes to, and that's Ted Lasso. What do you think about Ted Lasso?
Oh my God.
Let's hear it.
Okay. So first off, I have to preface this by saying that for most of my adult life, I have been a terrible, terrible television snob, which has greatly offended friends of mine who work in television. And I spent so long sort of sneering at the whole thing that I realize now I've missed out on a lot of really great stuff. So mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. I resisted watching Ted Lasso simply because it was so popular that I thought it couldn't possibly be cool.
Yeah.
But finally, I don't even know what it was that finally kind of, pushed me into seeing it. I had just decided, okay, I'm going to have to give this a shot. And mind you, this was like 2 months ago. And my husband, we were sitting in the living room and he's like, hey, let's give this show a shot. And I said, yeah, I've been wanting to check it out. Yeah, let's check it out. Listen, fast forward, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that it has changed my life. Yeah.
Go on.
Here's the deal. And I'm certainly not the first person to say this, but here is a character who is deeply flawed, who is surrounded by deeply flawed people, all of whom exist together in a deeply flawed, occasionally very painful world.
Right.
And he gets up every morning and tries again. And he allows people their dignity. He is consistently generous. He's got a funny little sense of humor. He doesn't care if he looks like a dork, which he often does,
Yeah. Start with the mustache.
I mean, he remains vulnerable. And of course, this is where I'm going to bring in Brene Brown, because also she's a huge fan of the show. And I know she's had Brendan Hunt and Jason Sudeikis on her podcast, where she talks about how she's seen every episode 3 times because there's so much good shit in there that you miss, she says. But kind of one of the things she talks about a lot is remaining, and I'm probably saying it in the wrong order, but it's kind, vulnerable, or is it, no, sorry. I'm screwing it up. It's vulnerable, awkward, and kind. And the older I get, the more I realize that is exactly what you need to be. And so when I first read that in one of her books, I went, oh my God, that's it exactly. And that's what Ted does. And, just to be completely frank and completely geek out here, I think the overarching thing for me was that it made me realize that for as much as I have prided myself on being open and vulnerable, there's a huge part of me that has spent a lot of time, many years, trying to protect the very core of that. And I think as a result, that made me, turn my back on a lot of things that could have been helpful for me personally, that could have been opportunities for me to help others, that could have just been less painful or more fun. And it kind of also brought to light the old adage that what somebody else thinks of you is none of your business. And then I'll just give you one more example of what I'm talking about. There's a scene. So when Ted first arrives in England, everybody's calling him wanker. Perfect strangers on TV are shouting it at him. People that he passes on the street are shouting it at him. And there's one old man who, even as people get used to him and get to know him and are more respectful, there's one old man who passes him every day in the street and says, something like, "Oi, wanker." And Ted always just smiles and says hi. And so in this episode, Ted is walking with his boss, and that old man comes by and says, "Oi, wanker," And she kind of looks at him like, "What?" And he says, "Oh, it's an inside joke we have. Beat. And then he says, "It's mostly inside his head." And I went, oh my God, that right there, like that is one of the secrets to life.
Yeah.
That's something happening with that dude. I'm just acknowledging his humanity.
Yeah. It's a great point.
It's a really long answer.
No, it's a great answer on so many levels. It's a great point. It took me only 5 decades to figure out that I, like you said earlier, what people think of me is really none of my business. I can't change it. And if I just like been like a reed in the wind every time somebody blows something at me, so to speak, that's a bad torture metaphor, but every time the wind blows, I'm not going to be very successful. I'm just going to be kind of, bobbing and weaving in the wind and not really, taking my path and doing what I'm supposed to do. And I do like that about Ted. At first, when I started watching, I thought, God, he's a bit at first I was really concerned. Oh God, is he like Pollyanna? Is he a cipher of some sort? Is
Right.
this kind of like a,
Right.
yeah, right. Is he just going to be this uh slightly smarter Chauncey Gardner walking around, and I thought, if that's the way it's going to go, I'm not going to keep watching. But I kept on, and then I realized, it's like you said, no, he has depth, he's a human, he's got immense personal flaws, just like we all do. And so I like that aspect of it, and I'm with you on that. And I love that, the whole cast of characters, everybody, I'll use this very strong word, I don't really mean it the way it sounds, but everybody's broken in their own way. Everybody's
Yeah.
got their own situation, right? I really like the way it approaches that. I will say this, and if you haven't seen through to the end of the second season, and Emma, have you seen through to the end of the second
I have,
season?
yeah.
Not crazy about the direction, to be honest with you. I tweeted about that yesterday, as a matter of
Yikes.
fact.
Sorry
I'm not.
about.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'll tell you, if it's okay, folks. If you're not wanting to, you hear this, I'll just give it a couple of minutes and zip forward. But I said this. Here's what I said in my tweet. Okay, and I got some response that was positive to this. I mean, mostly. I said, what if on MASH, which is one of my all-time favorite shows, if on MASH Radar turned against Hawkeye for an entire season, I mean, they had one episode where they had a constant conflict on some of the things that happened, but if Radar turned on Hawkeye for the entire season and became a bad guy, I think it would have wrecked the vibe of MASH. And that's what I think that's what they, at least for me, have done to Ted Lasso. So discuss it. Why am I wrong about that?
I think I don't. Okay, I think you're right about MASH. I also know that the writers are furiously writing away as we speak, probably. I think it's too soon to tell. I really do. I think keep an open mind.
I will.
And we'll see. We'll see what comes of it.
Okay. Well, what's with the hair then?
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Not since Roddy McDowall appeared in Fright Night 2 have I seen such a bad gray spray job on an actor.
You know what? What's interesting though, I've noticed that since during the course of the pandemic, a lot of people I know have gone very suddenly much grayer than they were.
Well,
dramatically.
Speaking of, on the same Twitter feed, a friend of mine said that about the gray, and two guys who were talking to me about it are both men, and they're one's in his mid 50s, one's in his early 60s, and they're all with gray, and they're like, "Hey, what's with the gray? Does that equal, does that equal evil? Come on now." And I said, "Well, you'll note that I only have a few stray strands of gray, and I do not dye my hair, by the way."
You don't?
Oh, you are a brat. I do not dye my hair. Of course not. No.
Wow.
Well, you think I do?
No, I mean, it's just it's so not great. Listen, I started,
she's digging a hole trying to get out. Are you serious?
No. Listen, I started going gray at 22, so I've never. I mean, and I started dyeing my hair at like 14 or something. So
wow.
Really? Yeah, I'm always amazed when somebody my age or older has no gray. That's impressive.
Well, you have the see, I would have known that you have these raven locks. I always thought you were just, you were one of those folks who no, I'm serious. I really
my real hair color is very, very, very light. It's like light ash brown.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, and by the way, you're gonna have to send me which headshot you want me to show people on the show notes. So
sure.
choose the one with the raven locks. I guess not, just whatever you want to do. No, it's funny. My dad, who's 77 or something like that now, he only went kind of gray around the temples and a little bit really at all in his mid 60s. So I'm probably on the same. Yeah, I mean, I have a little, but okay, the audience is like, Alex, we don't care about your hair. All right, but the point being, okay, I'm with you and I'm patient with Ted. And of course this, right? I'm sure Mike's told you this. I mean, Sudeikis is from here.
I do, yeah.
He grew up literally within a mile or two of where Mike lives. So Mike is, oh, by the way, sorry, folks, the leader of Brainsimming is our friend, Mike Brown, who is actually the connector between Emma and myself. Yeah, he lives not far from this, in the Sudeikis family, still lives here. So he seems like a great guy. And, we've got this weird, nice thing here. We got Sudeikis, we got Paul Rudd, we got Rob Riggle, we got all these kind of really, the guy who was on Modern Family, they're all kind of from this area or call this area,
Oh, no, wait. Phil, what's his last name? I'm totally blanking on his name. I love him.
The guy on Modern Family.
Yeah.
Jeez, I'm blanking on him too. He played Cam. Yeah, Cam.
Yeah, no, he's great.
Yeah, he is great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually watched the live stream of Thundergone on Saturday night. That was great. That's the it's the yearly, I'm totally blanking on the word here. It's the yearly fundraiser for the Steps of Faith Foundation.
Oh, okay.
And Billy Brimblecom and Jason Sudeikis host it. And
Oh, okay. I missed
it was
that.
so much fun.
Yeah. I first like really got to I never really noticed Sudeikis until he was guesting on 30 Rock for a memorable turn. He was Tina Fey's character's boyfriend for a little while.
Yeah.
And he played him so straight down the middle, and I thought, well, that's an appealing guy. Then he's on SNL, and I didn't realize that. And my favorite skit of the past 20 years on SNL has to be "What's Up with That" with with DeAndre. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
and
Vance is hands down my favorite Sudeikis character. I love Vance so much. He's so committed.
Well, that's that, and I'll never get over just the Lindsey Buckingham running joke on that particular skit, and you know, and
later, and oh gosh,
I cannot dance like that though. Like Sudeikis can do that dance, the Running Man or whatever that is.
No, excuse you, that's the Roger Rabbit.
That's the Roger Rabbit. Thank you.
Yeah.
I cannot.
He does do the Running Man occasionally, but yeah. his signature is the Roger Rabbit.
I have friends who are dancers, and I'm going to have to get with them and say, please, I've got to learn how to do this. It's the one thing it's the one dance I want to do at my daughter's wedding someday. You know, that's the one.
Great.
Yeah. Well, you can see me doing it. I'm sure you know me a little bit. Come on.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, if you're not there, I'll at least get you some bid. So let's transition over from Ted, because I used to be a bit more of a TV snob than I am now. But I want to talk to you about your transition. But I just want to tell you something that's happened to me as I'm getting old and have a gray hair or two. Is this? I don't give a lot of programs much time. I'm gonna by the way, I'm gonna like really make people think I'm very stupid and bourgeois, but I'm 3 to 4 episodes maybe, and if it doesn't trip my trigger, I'm out, which is rude in a way, and it's silly. And here I am, I'm also a professional writer, and boy, I would be so mortified if like people bombed out of my books after 3 chapters, but they do. But my point is, I went in during COVID and I rewatched Sopranos, loved it again. But I tried to watch The Wire, and I got 4 in, and I just didn't find it compelling. And I know that's sacrilege to so many people, but I got out of it. And that's kind of where I am with several shows lately. I'll watch 2 or 3, and I just feel like if it's flailing, I just move on. It's not because I am my standards are so high. I think it's just because I feel that I'm at a stage in my life where there's probably more time behind me than in front of me, and I just don't want to waste it on stuff that doesn't engage me.
I think that is completely fair. Life's too short, honestly, and it's not even, for me, it's not even anymore a matter of good versus bad. It's just things need to scratch a particular itch, and maybe that itch changes day to day. And that's fine. There's certainly enough out there for everybody.
Right. But you know what I used to do that was not appropriate though, is I used to kind of subtly side-eye down-mouth people who like stuff that I thought was ridiculously bad stuff. And that was wrong. It's like, you know what? If it's like you said, if that scratches your itch, if that entertains you, well, I do draw the line at certain things, but I won't get into that here. But I will look down on you if you, I'm not going to say there's certain shows. If I say it, I'm going to piss off somebody, but there's certain shows that if you tell me that's your favorite show, I'll be like, oh, how nice. I've got to go. But
that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Well, everybody has their thing.
Everybody has their thing. So tell me a show besides Ted Lasso that you kind of decided to dip your toe into, and you found you enjoyed the water.
Oh gosh. There's actually since right before the pandemic, I started doing that more and more, and I've amassed quite a collection. I'm really enjoying, and I realize I'm the last person to arrive at this party. Schitt's Creek. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Was not at all interested for many of the same reasons I didn't want to watch Ted Lasso, but finally somebody who's even more cranky about TV than I am sat me down on Sunday and said, listen, you need to watch this. And he's, what? Why? Like, why? I'm not interested if it's not getting me in by the third episode. But because this was kind of, he was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, I said, okay, I'll do it. And I'm loving it.
Well, I was raised on SCTV, so all I had to know was Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy, and I'm not saying I leapt to watch it. I knew it would be good, but then I started watching it because my wife would watch it, and I'd watch, and it's very funny. And Levy's son Dan is a hoot.
He is. I didn't make it past the first episode the first time that I tried seeing it. I thought, I hate all these people. I'm not invested. I have nothing to gain here. So I had to push past that, and something, alchemical happened in episode 4 for me, where I went, oh my God, this is amazing. And obviously a lot of that has to do with the writing and, people getting into, feeling comfortable with their characters and kind of bringing more to them. And that's, that's a process. That's fine.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
Another one I crazy super love is Babylon Berlin.
I've not seen it.
Oh, it's fucking phenomenal.
What's it about?
It follows, so apparently it's based on a series of books, which I've not read, but it follows a young policeman who goes from, I've not finished my 1 cup of coffee yet this morning, Alex, so my synapses are not firing the way they should be. He has gone to Berlin, sent by his father, who's kind of the big chief of the police force in his town. And he's there to uncover a mystery. And this all takes place in 1920s Berlin, which was known as the Weimar era, because it wasn't really Germany yet, right? It was the Weimar Republic, the Weimar Republic. And so it's this crazily intoxicating mix of noir and music and dancing and fashion and insane grit and like just an extremely German aesthetic overall. The acting is phenomenal. Everything about it is just absolutely fascinating. It's not an uplifting show per se. And so if that's something that you need in your television, I wouldn't recommend it. But oh my God, I loved it so much. I've tried rewatching it and just haven't really been in the right mind frame. Right. Because I started watching it just before the pandemic, so things were a little less heavy then. But I am looking forward to rewatching that one. It's just awesome.
Do you think is there a character named Dieter who wants you to touch his monkey, or is it?
No, actually, okay. Nothing like that happens. The main character is played by an actor called Volker Buch, and he is just a fantastic actor. He was also in a mini series. It's a 3-part mini series about World War II, and the American name for it is Generation War. And I believe that's on Amazon. Anyway, just phenomenal stuff.
Well, I'll add that to my list of things to check out. Did you? I don't know if you have HBO. Did you go in for Mayor of Easttown?
You know what? I have not seen that yet, and I've heard such good things.
Yeah, we kind of resisted it. See, those tendencies still exist for both of us, I think, right? You just like, right. Oh, everybody's talking about it. I don't know. And then I was like, we had a boring weekend, and I just said to my wife, "You want to?" And she goes, "Yeah, okay." Which that's usually how our conversations go about a lot of things I ask.
Oh, but my anyway, God.
But hey-o, we watched it, and here's the thing. Kate Winslet, I mean, really, pulls it off, but it also has an actor I really enjoy, and she had appeared in with Mildred Pierce a few years ago, which is great. Guy Pearce. So I really
he's
enjoyed
fantastic
it.
Too. Yeah,
isn't he great?
Yeah.
Did you see Mildred Pierce with her and him? Because
no, I didn't.
Oh wow! And it's hot, and it's so well done, but it's just hot to me. I just think it's just got it all, so it's really good. But I like her. You really should. It's good. Yeah. So there's so many of those things. There's some stuff though that I've tried recently, just hoping it would get better as we're kind of transitioning here. But I'm not a big fan, and you may not even be into this at all. So I'll make it quick. But I grew up on Trek. I love Star Trek, but I cannot abide everything that's come since 2009, basically. And it just, to me, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And I tried the other day to watch season 4 of Discovery, and I found it so objectionable. I just turned it off. And that's a very visceral reaction I'm having. And so I'm of course I'm dealing with, okay, you're just an old man and you can't change with the times, which is not fair to me, but that's what I tell myself. That's the reason why a lot of people like it and I don't know.
What is it that you find offensive about it?
As a writer, I'm more offended by the writing than anything else.
Oh,
It just
yeah.
seems like they're just ticking boxes all the time. You know, they're making sure they create characters that will appeal to any substrate of the audience. Fine, but then the writing just doesn't seem true to the concept.
Right.
And
Or the spirit of Star Trek, would you say?
the spirit of Star Trek is that, but also just science fiction in general. Good science fiction has its roots in actual science and actually, and it's just because things that don't have, to me, in my opinion, and this is very simplistic, science fiction that doesn't have roots in science is fantasy. That's my
Yes.
opinion.
Yeah,
Okay.
agreed.
Okay. Star Trek is science fiction. And the way they've got it now, it's just they just throw physics out the window. They just throw basic science out the window. And okay,
Oh.
the one thing I will tell you I can't stand though, these are supposed to be Starfleet officers, and there's not been an episode I can think of yet where one of them does not break down and cry.
Oh.
Look, Spock cried on Trek a couple of times, but that was because he didn't, he could, his emotions and all that stuff. But that was the thing. This episode to me, it's just a bunch of whining and crying, and I can't stand that. I'm just like, this is you're a captain of a starship. Act like it, It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
weird. I don't care. And if that's and I've been told, well, you're Gen X and you don't know this. Our generation, we express our emotions. I'm like, I do too, but not at work. Not every day at work. They're at work. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Not
I'll get off my
not every day at work. That would bug me too.
head.
Writing is a really important part of really anything scripted, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
My husband, went to film school and has a film degree. And so he can watch a lot of different movies for any number of reasons. He'll watch an entire movie just for the production value.
Yeah. Then he'll love this. The production values are incredible.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. For me, the writing matters a whole lot, but also I don't know that I don't think it's bad to say, I don't like this because it's not the way it used to be. That's what you like.
Well, and there's a reason why Star Trek's still around 60 years later. And that's that foundation that managed to hold it together all the way up until the JJ verse began in 2009. And then the Kurtzman era came back on TV and all, even Picard, who I love Patrick Stewart. My gosh,
Yeah.
the man.
Yeah.
But this show, anyway, you know what? This is, yeah. But I only bring that up because I have strong feelings about it. And I appreciate you saying that, it's just, and sometimes I feel a little dumb even getting so outraged. It's just, it's just a TV show. And a lot of people I know are kind of roll their eyes at me like, well, Star Trek's really not even serious, serious stuff, but I'm like, yeah, no.
See, I call bullshit on that.
I
don't
call bullshit.
think and maybe 20 years ago I wouldn't have. But at this point in my life, and particularly given the last 5 years,
oh yeah,
I think anything that brings you any glimmer of a hint of joy, so long as you're not hurting anybody else or yourself, is completely valid. And it doesn't need to meet any particular set of criteria. Certainly it doesn't need my approval. I just think life's too short. But I will say, William Gibson, lauded sci-fi writer, has said many times that the way he approaches things is he looks at what currently exists and extrapolates into the future. And so that, for me, that theme, that thread has to exist in order for me to buy into anything science fiction.
There you go.
If, like what you're saying, you're just throwing everything out the window, then it is just fantasy wearing a science, costume. Yeah. And that's just dumb.
It is. Thank you. And any relation? Gibson?
No, I am often asked that. In fact, I have a lot of people who follow me on Twitter and then are deeply disappointed when they realize I'm neither his wife nor his daughter. But we have become friends over the years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Wow.
Yeah.
Did he do Necromancer? What was that called?
Neuromancer. Yeah.
Neuromancer, excuse me, Necromancer. He did Neuromancer. That's right. Okay.
Yep, that was him.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That was his very first novel.
Wow, that's why how time flies. He's somebody who's kind of on my extended list. I've not gotten to, but I fully aware of how influential he's been. Obviously, brilliant guy. Speaking of influential and brilliant, I wanted to take a little detour and talk about somebody we both are big admirers of, or at least I think we both are, because there's been a lot of hay made about him. A couple of years after his death, we've got the Anthony Bourdain first wave of remembrance, and hagiography is coming out. I know you and I both saw Roadrunner, and we've had discussions offline about this. Also, I just got a couple weeks ago the Laurie Woolever. Basically, it's an oral history of him, people who knew him. Her book, and I got it on audio, so I get to hear most of those people reading their contributions. And
wow.
It's really, I don't know if you're going to look at it, but I found it fascinating. Particularly, though, I found the parts towards the end about when he was making television less interesting, because, of course, yes, I'm a writer. I found it more interesting about how he got his first couple of novels published, and then so a lot of people, very influential people in his life, said, you've got this incredible voice, but the things that really come out alive is when you write about what you do and what your thoughts are on culture and all these things. And that's kind of where he got to be. So I'm just curious, are you going to read the Woolever book, or what do you think?
Probably eventually. I'm reading the Tom Vitale book right now. In the Weeds.
Yeah.
And I'm taking that real slowly, just because a lot of it, I think is still, it's kind of painful. And I think that probably it's going to be very hard for a lot of people to read it and kind of come face to face with the, outrageous concept that he was a deeply flawed human.
A human. Yeah. My God. Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. I think enjoying it is possibly the wrong word. There's a lot of humor in it. I'm not sure that the negative aspects are things that should surprise anyone, if they've ever known anybody like him before. But I think it probably will be deeply unpleasant for some people to read who kind of had a real specific view of him. I really respect Laurie Woolever, and she was really kind to me when I reached out for a quote for the essay that I wrote about Bourdain in A Brief Compendium of Cool. And I really love that she took that approach to the book, because I think oral history is so rich and so often forgotten now. And I just think it's a brilliant idea that she had. Well, I'm not sure that it was her idea to begin with, but it's a brilliant idea, and I love that she brought all that together.
I do too. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard to read parts of it, and of course, Roadrunner, we uncover some things. I think I was not prepared for the fact that, I mean, you could tell the guy didn't suffer fools, right?
Yeah.
But I was unprepared for the fact that I don't think he had a mean streak necessarily, but the older he got and the more stressed out he got about what he'd created, it seemed he seemed to become, well, I don't know if I'm using the right word. And you know what? Who am I to? I'm not judging it. I'm just saying that it did change what I thought about him a little bit, because I'd always heard that whenever fans stopped him on the street, he would take a picture and he'd be really nice, and he was. But people who worked with him, he could have a short fuse with. And I think the Vitale book, I'm sure you're uncovering some of those things. Is that kind of what you're saying, or?
Yeah, I mean, I do think he had a mean streak. I'm gonna take it one further and say that he had a cruel streak.
Oh wow!
And I mean, at the risk of sounding like a crazy obsessed fan. I think part of what appealed to me about him was that I recognized a lot of myself.
Mhm.
Um, I know, as somebody who is incredibly prone to depression, but also is used to, you know what? I'm going to read you something I said to a friend
Please.
a couple of months ago. Let's see. So there was a piece in Esquire in October called How Not to Be Anthony Bourdain. Did you happen to see that?
I know I should have, but maybe I didn't. Go ahead.
So the subhead of the article is, between sawing the heads off live chickens and shooting scenes out of airplanes, there's a grave lesson at the heart of two new additions to the Bourdain canon. And it focuses on, sort of his dark side. And what I said to my friend about this was, in the months after he died, I watched a few episodes of Parts Unknown in which he was pretty clearly in a very bad place.
Yeah.
One in particular, he and Eric Rappel were in the Swiss Alps. Tony was being an asshole in this very specific way I recognized immediately, because it's a tactic I've used many times. I've used it when I've come to the end of my rope, and I'm not only sick of myself and my shit, I'm sick of the people around me having fallen for it and being intimidated. So I ramp up the dark cynicism, getting more and more brutal, because fuck it, no one's going to call me on it. And why am I surrounded by idiots anyway? I said, from that episode, from what I'm reading in Vitel's book, and from that article, I wonder if maybe he lived his last few years struggling not to live in that airless, dark space.
That's, by the way, brilliant self-analysis there and self-awareness that, and I think he was, and probably like you and probably like me, he was probably painfully self-aware in a lot of ways. I think he was, well, maybe I don't think, maybe I'm asking you, do you think he was afraid of that cruelty that he could so easily slip into? Do you think he was afraid of that aspect of himself, or do you think he hated that aspect of himself?
I mean, really the only answer I can give is I hate that aspect of myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I will wield it when I need to.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's just one of those really ugly and very uncomfortable truths about who we are.
I spent a lot of years working on that.
Yeah.
I did, a dozen at least, and much better. And but I found this. It's kind of like it's like a tube of toothpaste in a way. You can roll it up one way, and and nothing comes out, and you roll it the other way. But the point being is, like, it seems that, like, it's a tortured way of saying what you just said, which is, there's a way when it's going to come out.
Yeah.
You don't want it to, but there it is, because, and I'm too old to change completely who I am. But who I am is a product of my formative years, my life experiences,
Yeah.
my brain chemistry, what I ate that day, all those things. But I wonder, though, that, yeah, he got to this rarefied place, and there's something that people keep saying in the Williver book, kind of a thing, was like, things really changed when he stopped riding in the van with us. When
Oh, wow.
he would be in the fancy hotel room, and they would be in the Motel 6. He would have a car that would take him to set when it was time. But when he started, he was part of the merry band, and they'd make bathroom jokes and be silly, and he would have an iPod with speakers and be the DJ in the van, and it was that. But then he put distance between them, and I think that's part of it too. I think I want to succeed. There's certain things that I still have my eye on that I hope to succeed at creatively. But the thing I got to remember is, if I do, and a lot of the trappings of success come with them, it's going to create a whole new set of problems for myself and the people who love me.
Yes.
And I've got to be prepared for that in case it does happen. The odds are against it, but if it did, but his is a cautionary tale, I think. And I did get one last thing on this, Emma. I did get, as sadly, our time is about up, because you're coming back, and I don't care, even if you don't want to, you're coming back.
I would love to.
Okay, because really, we just scratched the surface here. But I did. Boy, I think you and I called it a long time ago about his final love interest, his final lover.
Yeah.
I don't think she was good for him. I don't think she's good for anybody. I tried very hard in my heart to find some understanding for her, and I can't find it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the understanding perhaps is that she is a deeply toxic, narcissistic individual with no scruples.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. It's like, well, there's this line, I'm sorry, it was one of the last people who saw Tony alive. And it was right after he'd seen the pictures in the tabloids,
Yeah.
with her and the other guy. And the guy was like, basically saying, I'm sorry, Tony, anything I can do. And he said, Tony just looked off into space and said, just showing a little fucking discretion is all. And he thought he meant at him. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. And then he realized, no, he's not talking about me.
Yeah.
Because he felt humiliated by that.
Of course. Yeah.
Well, I've been there too, and it sucks.
Sucks real bad. Sucks real bad.
Oh man. Emma, one thing that doesn't suck real bad is talking with you. I really enjoyed it. I'm serious when I say you got to come back. We only scratched the surface here.
I know. It was like 5 minutes worth.
Yeah.
I will absolutely. This was so much fun. Anytime.
All right. Very good. Tell us again, if people want to learn more about you, and I'll put links in the show notes, but what's the best way for people to check in with what you're talking about, what you're doing, what you're putting out there?
Sure. Probably the best way is to go to alvarezgibson.com, ALV like Victor, AREZ like zebra, GIBSON, alvarezgibson.com.
Okay. Very good. Well, Emma, I love speaking with you because I think you and I both are interested in a lot of the same things. But we're also both kind of raconteurs in our own way, and social critics.
We should form a band. Oh, wait. No, I already did that.
Yeah, somebody already did it. And, at least speaking for myself, that they actually have musical talent, which I don't, but I wish I did. Emma, it's been a delight. If you're not the last guest of 2021, you're damn close. And I can't think of a better way to round it out. Thanks so much for being here on Mysterious Goings On.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Cassandra Lane. I'm the author of We Are Bridges, a memoir. You're listening to Mysterious Goings On with Alex Greenwood.
Thanks so much for listening to Mysterious Goings On. Don't forget, we have a complete archive of all of our interviews, monologues, updates, live readings, dead readings. All of that stuff is available at mgopod.com. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to us so you never miss an episode. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the usual suspects. Please join us there. Again, don't forget, mgopod.com also has links where to find me on social media and how to get in touch in case you want to be a guest here on the show. Well, I think it's time that I move on for this week, but until next time, keep reading.